What's happening, everybody? It's Sean with Reactions to the Classics, and today got another Johnny Cash reaction to his American recordings. This time, American Recordings 4. The Man Comes Around, brought to us by our friend, longtime supporter, and patron of the channel, Carl. Thank you, Carl. Appreciate everything you bring. Carl's brought the first 3 in this series, and we'll have part 5 next month. But thanks to all the patrons who support us. We super appreciate it. We couldn't do it without you. If you'd like to support us in any way, check out the Patreon link below, the Patreon link on the end screen. Let's jump into the background of this one. This one has several songs, so we're going to get right after it. It was released on November 5th, 2002 by American Recordings and Universal Records. It's the 4th in his American series of albums and the last album released during his lifetime. The majority of songs are covers, which Cash performs in his own sparse style with help from producer Rick Rubin. For instance, for the song Personal Jesus, Rubin asked Red Hot Chili Peppers guitarist John Frusciante, I can never say his name right, guys, to rework an acoustic version of Martin Gore's song, which featured a simple acoustic riff that stripped down the song to a blues style. He receives backing vocal assistance from various artists, including Fiona Apple, Nick Cave, and Don Henley. Now, as I mentioned, it was the final album released during his lifetime, though the Unearthed box set was compiled prior to his death, with Cash choosing the tracks and writing liner notes. American 4, The Man Comes Around, was Cash's first non-compilation album to go platinum since the early 70s. In 2003, a mere days before his 71st birthday, Cash won a Grammy for Give My Love to Rose, a song Cash had originally recorded in the late 50s. Cash was also nominated that year for Best Country Collaboration with Vocals for his Bridge Over Troubled Water cover with Fiona Apple. The music video for Hurt, which of course now is famous, also won the award for Best Short Form Video in 2004. 6 songs featured on the album had previously been recorded by Cash. I'll note those. As we jump into the first song, I want to remind you the music will not be in this video, but there's a Vimeo link below. You can check out the whole thing right there. We're going to kick it off with the first song, a song I've only heard, I think, once, but it's absolutely fantastic. The Man Comes Around, written by Cash. It was written several years prior to the release of this album, however. Cash updated it for the album. It's one of the last songs Cash wrote before his death. Both sung and spoken, the song makes numerous biblical references, especially to the book of Revelation. A spoken portion from Revelation 6:1 and 2 in the King James Version introduces the song. It describes the coming of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, each heralded by one of the 4 beasts, first mentioned in Revelation 4:6-9. The musical portion then begins with Cash reciting that the man, of course, is Jesus Christ, will one day come to pass judgment. The chorus indicates that these events will be accompanied by trumpets, as in Revelation 8, 9, and 11. Pipers is in Revelation 18:22, and 100 million angels singing. The voice of the Lord in Revelation is often likened to the sound of a loud trumpet. Revelation 5:11 states that John saw that there are millions of angels in heaven. So Cash is really, blending these things in. The song also alludes to the parable of the 10 virgins from the Gospel of Matthew, which is in chapter 25, with the lyrics, "The virgins are all trimming their wicks," a reference to their preparation of the second coming of Christ. The phrase, "it's hard for thee to kick against the pricks," cites Acts 26:14, where Paul describes meeting Jesus while traveling to Damascus. It's a reference to a Greek proverb where a kicking ox injures himself by attempting to kick against a goad, intended to represent the futility of resisting the Lord. Elsewhere, it mentions the wise men who bow before the Lord's throne and cast their golden crowns at the feet of God. So there's all kinds of stuff in here, obviously. Of the album's 15 tracks, only 3 were written by Cash. This is the sole song specifically penned for this album, and the only song Cash wrote in its entirety. It was inspired by a dream he had about Queen Elizabeth II, in which the Queen compared Cash to a thorn tree in a whirlwind. Haunted by the dream, he became curious if the phrase was a biblical reference and eventually found a similar phrase in the book of Job. So if you're not a Christian, you probably didn't care about any of that. I am a Christian. Cash was a Christian. It's interesting to understand all the stuff. Like, this song's a complex song when you consider everything that he utilized and blended in. It's super powerful when you get that. So I'll have the lyrics up as always. Thanks again, Carl. The Man Comes Around. That is an absolutely great song, right? Even the way it starts and finishes with the spoken word as he kind of bookends the story. I'm not going to go into all the lyrics because I already told you up front about all of them. I mean, he just tells the story. I thought the guitar riff was fantastic. The acoustic is Randy Scruggs and Smokey Hormel. And then Benmont Tench, the great Benmont Tench from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. He was on organ and piano. I thought the instrumentation on here worked just perfect, right? because it wasn't a straight acoustic guitar, but almost all it was. But the riff on the chorus part and then that little organ and piano that came in, I mean, this song is fantastic. What a way to start. Next up is a song that now has become famous because of the video. We got Hurt. It's a song by American industrial rock band, of course, Nine Inch Nails, from its second studio album, The Downward Spiral, in 1994, written by the great Trent Reznor. It received a Grammy Award nomination for Best Rock Song in 1996 and includes references to self-harm and heroin addiction, though the overall meaning of the song is disputed. Some listeners contend that the song acts as a suicide note written by the song's protagonist as a result of his depression, while others claim it describes the difficult process of finding a reason to live in spite of depression and pain. Johnny Cash's accompanying video features images from Cash's life, was named the Best Video of the Year by the Grammys and CMA Awards and the Best Video of All Time by NME in July of 2011. When Reznor was asked if Cash could cover a song, he said he was flattered but worried that the idea sounded a bit gimmicky. He became a fan of Cash's version, however, once he saw the music video. Reznor said, "I popped the video in and wow, tears welling, silence, goosebumps. Wow, I feel like I just lost my girlfriend because that song isn't mine anymore. It really made me think about how powerful music is as a medium and art form. I wrote some words of music in my bedroom as a way of staying sane about a bleak and desperate place I was in, totally isolated and alone. Somehow that winds up reinterpreted by a musical legend from a radically different era, genre, and still retains sincerity and meaning. Different, but every bit as pure." So you got Mike Campbell on the acoustic, Ben Montenches on this one, the piano, organ, and mellotron, both of them, of course, from Petty and the Heartbreakers. Smokey Hormel also played guitar on this track. Cash was given the Country Music Association Award for Single of the Year in 2003, ranked as CMT's top video for 2003, number one on CMT's 100 Greatest Country Videos the following year, and again in 2008. It's also Cash's sole chart entry on the Billboard Modern Rock charts, where it hit 33 in 2003. In October of 2011, NME placed it number 35 on its list of 150 best tracks of the past 15 years. And in a 2014 survey conducted by the BBC, the UK public voted the Cash version the second greatest cover version of all time. I don't know what first was, but I tell you all that to say, this song, I think it's so powerful because we know that Johnny was towards the end of his life. Hurt, the classic Hurt. You know, and you might be going, "Sean, why did you not show the video?" And I thought about it, right? I really did think about it. What I came to the conclusion is I wanted to just hear this song and get lost in the words of it and Johnny's performance. Because when you watch the video, you're overwhelmed by all of it. I mean, the video is the way to experience this song. But in this instance, I just wanted to hear it and feel it, and every bit holds up. Some story behind this song, too. I know I showed you a lot in the upfront, but Rick Rubin, of course, came up with this whole series and convinced Johnny to do it. He would send him samples of songs that you know, maybe he thought suited him. Because Rick said that Johnny's voice had really broke down by this point because he'd been really ill. It really bothered Cash, like the way his voice sounded. So he tried to pick songs that he thought made sense for him to perform vocally. So he put this on one of the compilations he sent to have him listen to. But you know, the Nine Inch Nails is obviously a different version and much harder. So Cash didn't respond to that. So another one, he sent him a compilation of songs. He put that on there, and Cash didn't respond again. And Rubin told him, "I think you ought to just read the lyrics to this one." And Cash finally told him, "Well, if you're that bent on wanting to try it, I'll give it a shot." So he said they just redid it and built it from the ground up acoustically. Well, then they shoot the video. And Rubin said that once the video was shot, that he watched it and he cried. He said it was unbelievably powerful. But then when Cash's management company saw it, they said no one can ever see this video. But Roseanne, Johnny's daughter, said that you're an artist. This is what you do. People got to see it. So that's kind of how that came about. So the lyrics are very, very powerful. I'm not really going to break that down. I think the instrumentation on here also works for this because it's tricky, right? Sparse instrumentation, but still make it work. It builds as you feel that hurt. It helps pump up his voice. So I think it's just fantastic. Next up is a song I know, "Give My Love to Rose," written by Cash. He recorded it together with the Tennessee Two at Sun Records under production of Sam Phillips in 1957. It was released in August of the same year, reached 13 on the country and western chart, as it was known back then. He recorded it several times. For this version, he received his fourth and final Grammy Award for Best Male Country Vocal Performance. He said a prisoner from San Quentin Prison asked him to take a message to his wife if he ever went through his hometown. This conversation, according to Johnny, was the inspiration for the lyric, which is about a dying convict who's released after 10 years of imprisonment. The prisoner is on his way to Louisiana from San Francisco to see his wife and child one last time before he dies. He collapses along the rails of the railway where he's picked up by a stranger. The convict asks the man to take his wife, his love, and a little money. The Man Agrees. Cash recorded the song several times over the course of his career. It appears on the 1960 album Johnny Cash Sings Hank Williams, even though the song is not one of Williams's. It also appears on the album All Aboard the Blue Train with Johnny Cash, released in 62. He included it on the following albums: I Walk the Line in 64, and the version I know, At Folsom Prison in 1968. We got a whole album reaction up to that absolutely fantastic album. Give My Love to Rose. This tells the story I talked about, the convicts getting out, and he wants to give, if you see her, give my love to Rose. I did read another story there that contradicts kind of what I said earlier, that it was a San Quentin. He said he wrote it about 10 blocks from San Quentin, so I think it was a San Quentin ex-convict who came backstage at the show and told Johnny a story. So he said, I don't know if his wife's name was really Rose, but it worked for the song. So it's a really stripped back, old-time country song. So I did enjoy that one. And we're going to finish out the A side of this with the famous Bridge Over Troubled Water. Fiona Apple's with him on this one. Obviously, it's by Simon and Garfunkel, released in January 1970 from their 5th studio album and last one, Bridge Over Troubled Water, composed by Simon. The single won the Grammy Award for Record of the Year, Song of the Year, Best Contemporary Song, Best Arrangement, Instrumental, and Vocals at the Grammys in 71, with its album also winning Album of the Year. It's one of the most famous songs in all of music history, really. So we're going to get into several songs here that obviously I know the original version of, that Johnny covers, that I'm going to be very curious to hear. Bridge Over Troubled Water. Now, I'll tell you, man, I didn't know going into this how this was going to be, because, the performance is so powerful that Art Garfunkel gives on this. And Elvis did a version. I actually got a reaction up to that was pretty good. I know a lot of people have covered this song, so I'm like, I don't know how Johnny's voice is going to work. I actually thought it worked pretty darn well as I got into it. I'll tell you what didn't work for me was the Fiona Apple coming in with it. They're harmonizing, but they're off a little bit. They're not totally in unison. She's a little bit behind him, which I understand singing with Johnny and his style at this time would be hard to do, but that part just didn't work for me. I thought he sounded better alone, and that's nothing against Fiona. She's absolutely a fantastic artist who is going to show up in our 1996 album draft. I can guarantee you that. But so I thought his parts worked well. I thought them together didn't necessarily work well for me, but I admire him for giving it a shot. Now we're going to go to what they called the B side. There's 4 sides to this thing. I Hung My Head. It's written by singer-songwriter Sting and released on his 1996 album Mercury Falling. It reflects Sting's childhood fondness for TV westerns, as well as his avowed interest in country music, but also tackles deeper and more philosophical themes of life, death, justice, and redemption. It tells the story of a boy who shoots a stranger, possibly by accident, the resulting shame and the consequences he faces. I've never heard this song. My goodness, man. I Hung My Head. What a great freaking story, right? Sting did a tremendous job. It sounds like it was written for Johnny, right? Basically it is the boy's just sitting up there and he's got the rifle, his brother's rifle, he's aiming it at this horse, at this rider going across, and he accidentally pulls the trigger, kills this guy, runs off, throws the gun in the bushes, and then the sheriff finds him. And the little chorus, I hung my head, is you hang your head in disappointment, but also he knew that the punishment for killing somebody was hanging, so it plays a double meaning here. So then they ask him why he did it, and they take him to the court, and the judge asks him if he's got anything to say, and then they pronounce him guilty, and he wishes he was dead because he widowed the wife, he orphaned the children, and so then he ends up, he's going and being hanged, talks about the gallows, goes to be hanged, and he sees a horse coming, and with a guy, and the guy says, "You're coming with me," so he takes him to heaven. So is that the guy he killed or an angel? I don't know, but what a tremendous song. Now up to a song I know, but I didn't know this about it. First Time Ever I Saw Your Face. It's a 1957 folk song written by British political singer-songwriter Ewan MacColl for Peggy Seeger, who later became his wife. At the time, the couple were lovers, although MacColl was still married to his second wife. That's a little awkward, right? During the 1960s, it was recorded by various folk singers and became a major international hit for Roberta Flack. In 1972, winning Grammy Awards for Record of the Year and Song of the Year, Billboard ranked it as the #1 Hot 100 single of the year for 1972. That's what I know. I didn't know this thing. I would have never imagined it's a 1957 folk song. Let's check out Johnny's interpretation. First Time Ever I Saw Your Face. I thought John's vocals were really good on this. I think this song fits him. I think Ruben did a great job proposing this one to him. The song, there's not a lot of lyrics to it. It's just kind of like a long, drawn-out song, the way you have to sing it, both him and Roberta Flack, the way they sang it. It's basically about love at first sight. I'm sure that was Benmont on the organ there, which just added a nice depth to it. So, yeah, it's a good one. Well, next up is a song I definitely know, Personal Jesus, written by Martin Gore. A song by electronic music band Depeche Mode. It's released as a lead single from their 7th album, Violator, which will actually have a listening party up from because It got voted by our patrons as the album we listened to from our album draft. It reached number 13 in the UK and 28 in the US, the original version. On Johnny's, the idea to cover the song was suggested, of course, by Rick Rubin. Cash called it probably the most evangelical gospel song I ever recorded, so that's the way he took to it. So I thought that's fantastic. Once again, John, I won't butcher his last name, from the Peppers, is on guitars here. So is Mike Campbell from the Heartbreakers. Thought the arrangement really helped us sing. The guitar work by Mike and John, and then the piano work by Benmont was just pivotal. I thought Johnny gave a really good performance here. The song is really probably written from the point of view by Martin of like, the guy is going to be the personal Jesus for the woman. He's, reach out to me, I'm going to save you and help you. But Johnny took it literal, which I think is another way you can take it, and it works fantastic that way. So it was the B-side to Hurt, so it got out to a lot of people when it mattered what the B-side was way back when. So I think that probably helped the song as well, but really good performance. Now we're going to get to the song that maybe I was most curious to see his interpretation of, In My Life, of course from the Beatles, from the 65 album Rubber Soul, written primarily by John, always credited to Lennon and McCartney, who later disagreed over the extent of their contributions to the song. That might have happened once or twice. Lennon credited the harmony and bridge to McCartney, while McCartney claimed the entire musical structure. George Martin contributed the piano solo bridge, which is sped up to sound like a harpsichord. According to Lennon, In My Life was his first real major piece of work, because the first time he penned personal lyrics about his own life. This is one of my favorite songs of all time. It's one of Trey's favorite songs of all time. So I'm interested to hear how Johnny interprets this thing. I think at his age and stage of life and when everything he was going through, it has a chance to be really powerful. In My Life, you have the harmonian Benmont and Roger Joseph Manning Jr. on acoustic. You have Mike Campbell and Smokey Hormel on bells. You had Roger Joseph Manning Jr. So those are your musician credits. I think this song works. It's very appropriate to be on this album. In the stage of life, like I said, that John is in, he can deliver these lines and absolutely be believable. For me, it's hard to cover the Beatles. If you guys watch this channel, you know how I feel about that. It can work every once in a great while. This didn't really work for me, but it's not bad, okay? Like I told you, In My Life is one of my favorite songs of all time. So, Johnny did fine with it. It's not something horrible or anything like that. It's just weird for me to hear. If you've never heard this song, you would probably work for you. It wasn't horrible. It was fine. Now we're up to the C side, Sam Hall. It's an old Irish folk song about an unrepentant criminal condemned to death for robbing the rich for feeding the poor. Prior to the mid-19th century, it was called Jack Hall after an infamous English thief who was hanged in 1707. Jack Hall's parents sold him as a climbing boy for 1 guinea, which is why most versions of the song identify Sam or Jack Hall as a chimney sweep. It was previously recorded by Cash for his 1965 album. Johnny Cash sings the Ballads of the True West. Sam Hall, definitely a Cash song, because it's a rebellious song, right? It fits him because this guy kills a guy, and the motif in every verse or 6 verses is "Damn Your Eyes." So, he's got Maui proud of him. Everyone sees what he did. The sheriff comes and says, "How are you?" And he says, "How are you?" I like the way Johnny emphasizes that. And at the very end, obviously he's probably killed for his crime. "I'll see you in hell, damn your eyes." So, yeah, I thought that really fit Johnny. Now we go to Danny Boy. It's a ballad written by English songwriter Frederick Weatherly in 1913 and set to the traditional Irish melody of Londonderry air. There are various conjectures about the meaning of Danny Boy. Some interpret the song to be a message from a parent to his son going off to war or participating in the Irish uprising, as suggested by the reference to pipes calling glen to glen, or immigrating as part of the Irish diaspora. Cash Priester recorded all the way back in 1965 on his album Orange Blossom Special. Danny Boy, also a song very suited to John's voice at this time in his life. I thought it worked. It brought you in. Benmont's work on here was absolutely fantastic on the organ because, being a traditional song, you've got to set that ambience just right. So I thought he did a really good job with that. Now we're on to Desperado, where Don Henley's going to appear with him. Henley, Glenn Frey co-wrote this 1973 Eagles album, Desperado. Interested to see this one and how it plays out as well. Desperado, thought that worked well with Johnny's voice. Don Henley's on it, but he only comes in for 6 lines towards the end. So he's not on a lot. I thought he worked way better than Fiona Apple did on Bridge Over Troubled Water. I thought they were in unison. I thought it just sounded way better. So I thought, that was a good song. And it fits Johnny at this stage of his life lyrically as well. Now you see a blow. We're on to the famous I'm So Lonely I Could Cry. It's a duet with the great Nick Cave. It's written and recorded by, obviously, American legend, singer-songwriter, country artist Hank Williams in 1949, covered by a wide range of musicians. Johnny covered the song on multiple occasions, but Nick Cave, a lifelong fan of Cash, picked the song after Rubin asked him what song he would most like to sing if the two were to collaborate. It was previously recorded by Cash on his 1960 album. Now, There Was a Song. I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry. More of a traditional duet, right? Because Johnny does verse 1, Nick does verse 2, Johnny does verse 3. You got that nice instrumental bridge, and then they together do verse 4. I thought this really worked. Nick Cave talked about Cash as one of his heroes. He started watching the Johnny Cash TV show when he was 9 or 10 and didn't really know anything about rock and roll music, and kind of introduced him to that. He's covered several. Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds have covered several of Cash's songs, but I thought that one really worked. Now we're up to Tear-Stained Letter. This one was written by Johnny. It was previously recorded for his 1972 album, A Thing Called Love. Tear-Stained Letter, great piano from Ben Mont there, great guitar work. Nice song. You know, Johnny's writing it to this woman who messed him over, right? She probably cheated on him is what I'm assuming. He's writing her this tear-stained letter telling her all the ways that she kind of screwed up and how they could have been good together. It's going to be about the saddest thing that ever hit her hometown. So I thought that was really good. I thought it fit him well, and I thought the arrangement worked well, especially at this stage of life for his voice. It kind of helped up things and kind of so he didn't have to work so hard. So enjoyed that one. So we got two songs left. We're just Streets of Laredo, officially credited to traditional, also known as the Dying Cowboy. It's a famous American cowboy ballad in which a dying ranger tells a story to another cowboy. Members of the Western Writers of America chose it one of the top 100 Western songs of all time. Johnny previously recorded on his 1965 album, Johnny Cash Sings the Ballads of the True West. Streets of Laredo. The song has, the songwriting accolades it does for a reason. It's a fantastic song. It basically tells the story of this cowboy that's dying. Somebody sees him, they come out and he's talking to this person and telling him, look, I've been shot in the breast. I imagine he was shot in the heart. I'm dying. Here's what I want you to do for my funeral. Get 6 cowboys to carry my coffin. Write my gray-haired mother. Tell her of my death. Tell her I'm gone. But don't tell her who did it, because in his name will die. Don't even make his name famous. Then the guy dies, and that's it. So I thought it's just a really well-written song. Fits Johnny perfectly here. Nothing he has to go all in on. He's a master storyteller, and you hang on every word. Well, we're to the final song on this album. We'll Meet Again with the whole Cash gang. So I don't know what that means. I couldn't find anything. There's nothing in musician credits, but it's a 1939 song by English singer Vera Lynn with music and lyrics composed and written by English songwriters Ross Parker and Huey Charles. It's one of the most famous of the Second World War era and resonated with soldiers going out to fight as well as their families and sweethearts. So I do got to point out, this is the last song on the last album that John made while he was alive. So I don't know if that's just ironic or appropriate or what you want to say, but let's check it out. We'll Meet Again. There's also some irony in this song. He's singing this to, I'm assuming, the original is sung to someone you love, probably your spouse. And, it's released in November 2002, and in May of 2003, June Carter, his soulmate for life, passed away. So there's some irony there, along with Johnny passing away a few months after that. So a really good way and a really appropriate way to end the final album, as I said, that was released while he was alive. Now we come to my favorite tracks. There's 15 songs on this album. Honorable mentions, going to go with I Hung My Head, the one written by Sting, just that fantastic story. Personal Jesus, and I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry, the duet with Nick Cave. Favorites, they're going to be, cliched and obvious, but Hurt and The Man Comes Around, the first two songs on this. So now we get to my overall score. I've done the other three leading up to this. I didn't think this one was quite as good as the first and second one. It's still a really good album. I think it might be a tad bit long. I get why. The highs are very high. The lows are not low at all, but I'm going to go with the 7.75 on this one. But I'm going to be back next month with American 5. So come back for that one. Thank you, Carl. Thank you, everybody, for watching. As I mentioned, check out the Patreon link on the end screen. We greatly appreciate it. Let me know what you think of this album. I realize the highs are high. Let me know what you think of the overall album. I'm really curious, to those of you who are very familiar with it, how you think it stacks up with the others in the American Recording series. Until next time, guys, I will see you.